It's Greg Dean from the Explore Life podcast and also from Vegan Action Global. And you can find us on the Vegan Action Global YouTube page and likely all across social media. And I've got Ryan with me today from Brisbane. And I just felt compelled to start doing podcasting, and I'd met you, Ryan, and I just thought, maybe I should invite you to podcast as well. It's people are probably doing it all the time, and likely people don't even care to listen to us. So we might only get like 50 viewers. Let's aim for thousands, but if not, let's just talk amongst each other. So Ryan, thanks for coming on to Explore Life podcast.
No, I'm happy, very happy to be here, and as you said, Greg, I live in Brisbane. I have been vegan about 6 years, I'd say, and very passionate topic I want to talk about today. And we'll go from there.
That's fair enough. Now, let's probably first talk about how how we met each other, because just by circumstance, we have a common friend, Terry, who runs Vegan Action Melbourne. Started it, built it, and he is relentless, and he's kept going. Regardless of the amount of people that quit activism, he just keeps going.
Yeah.
He's got his target, and he's on it.
Yeah.
And that's how I met you.
Very respectable motor. And I actually haven't met Terry in person. I just found what he does online and respect the way he goes about animal rights activism, and he's relentless.
How did you come across Terry? How did you come across him?
I just found him in a lot of comment sections in other activist pages, such as Andy Faulkner in Sydney, and just caught along with him. And I made the effort to reach out and see what he was doing there. Didn't realise he was running Vegan Action Melbourne, and followed his page, gave him a call, and just told him it would be great to emulate what he's doing here in Brisbane, South East Queensland.
And I'd moved up and I said, hey, I'm all on for starting Vegan Action Brisbane. And it took a long time to even, get their setting up here. I've got my own animals. I've got a partner. I've got a life here. I'm working 60 hours a week, and then just starting to attend vegan animal rights activist events, which were just few and far between. But I still just showed up, and then I would post their stuff, or I would take photographs and I'd put that on the Vegan Action Brisbane page just to be in support. With the view of building it out and maybe running a few events. So, we're still kind of getting there, but that's bringing us to this next step of using social media and creating videos and, kind of getting it out there so that, we see it building.
Yeah, definitely. It needs to be utilized, the power of social media, and, taking these small snippets and broadcasting them out. Everyone needs to see what we're sharing.
So first of all, let's quickly share our journeys to where we are today and what that means for us. So I want to kind of ask you first, what compelled you to where you are?
I had to think about this question. I typically say to people, if I have a short amount of time, how I went vegan, by sort of pointing them to the Dominion doco and saying, when I watched that, I made the switch overnight. And that's really the short story. But when I think about it, it's something that I feel was ingrained in me through my upbringing. I'm Indigenous, right? So I know what wrong treatment looks like to other people, and seeing that, have those experiences in my family or friends, and having a mum and dad who actually taught me to rock the boat and, not accept poor treatment of other people and discrimination. So I actually traced it all the way back to that. But, I didn't really consider veganism until I met an exchange student who came to our house when I was 17. I'm 30 now. So this guy, Indian fellow, came by and he said he's vegan, and I said, "What the hell is that?" You know, because I grew up playing rugby league. I was on the common belief, like most other people, that I needed eat dairy, eggs, all that to be healthy, and if I didn't consume that, it compromised my health. But you know, when he told me what it was, he probably didn't give me a good explanation. Otherwise, I could have changed. I just thought, oh, great, like you're vegan. That's a nice life choice. I respect that, but I didn't think anything else of it after. And then fast forward a few years later, I watched the What the Health doco, Cowspiracy, all that. I cared a lot about the environment. I thought, wow, I started feeling that contradiction in my lifestyle watching that doco, but it didn't compel me enough to change. Fast forward a few years later, another seed gets planted. I'm starting to take interest in why people believe certain things, and I started listening to a podcast called The Thinking Atheist, and he basically talks all about theology and debates Christians, Muslims, all those things. And I started thinking about, oh, what's a logical fallacy? All these things that we're not really taught per se in school, and that led me down the YouTube rabbit hole of watching other people's debates. And then I get on to Joey Carbstrong, watching his debates with other people about animal rights. And everything he said, he had a comeback for. And I thought, this guy makes total sense. And then when he's referencing this footage in the description, I click on a link, I watch Dominion, and yeah, it was, how do you say? It's a very, very hard watch. And immediately the next day I made that switch and declared vegan from then on. I was shocked.
I've got just a couple of quick questions before I'll give you a quick my background. You talked about having an Indigenous background, and you referred to discrimination, which tells me lived experience. And I'm going to relate this to animal rights activism, and this path to veganism in a couple of minutes. But I just want to quickly ask you what you mean by, just I guess cited examples of lived experiences of that, because I really believe that, and I'll give you a quick my background in a minute, but just want to see what that looks like for you.
Yeah, I certainly believe that racism, unfortunately, still affects a lot of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people in Australia. And, and I've got, my family tell me these stories, and I see it actually through my work. I work with Indigenous children in schools, and I see them go through it now, and it still enrages me actually that someone can treat someone wrong for the color of their skin.
But what about you? Where does it hit for you, like your personal thing? Because it brings us to where we feel we need to fight for others as well, and we see our suffering in the suffering of others, such as animals. I've got a deep background in this personally, so I just wanted to see what it looked like for you. Because when I met you, I thought this guy's a really strong individual, broad-shouldered, the type of, the women will be like, oh my God, look at that guy, just. So I just want to see, growing up and what that means to you, because we're all skinny runts at some point in our life, right? So, see photos of Eminem when he was a kid. I want to see what it looks like for you that gives you that lived experience.
Yeah, that's a good one. On face value, most people wouldn't take me for Aboriginal. And so I have a different experience to cousins or siblings that are darker than me, that fit the stereotype mold that they're Aboriginal. I didn't get treated illy myself, but I was around other people who didn't know about my heritage but would openly speak wrongly about Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people. So I hear that over and over, and it's like death by 1,000 paper cuts. And it really, it gets to the point where it starts hurting. But for, it's different for darker Aboriginal Australians. It's quite obvious. They'll get served last, in at the servo, or they'll get looked over when they're in the shops. Things like that where it's more overt.
Yeah. So if I'm getting this, if I'm hearing you correctly, just obviously tell me if I'm wrong, but I understand that because of you don't traditionally look Aboriginal, that others around you did, but then someone's talking to you potentially about Aboriginal, not whatever that looks like, not knowing that you are of that heritage, and maybe they're saying overtly racist stuff, and you're thinking, that's my family you're talking about, that's
exactly
my
right.
cousins, and it hits, and you go, oh, every time, and you don't want to yell at them because
exactly
you're trying to be kind about it. You want to lash out, but you don't want to give a bad name, or you want to be defensive, but you don't know how, and so it just slashes each day at you. Am I wrong?
Yeah, no, that's exactly what happens. And I worked in construction and mining industries and all that, and unfortunately, that's where I've seen a lot of it. And it bottles up, and it would get to the point where kind of I just call my parents and like break down and wouldn't know what to do about it really. Because like you said, when people say these things, I instantly start thinking of family and friends. I would hear things like Aboriginal people don't work, they're drunks, they're lazy, they're welfare dependent, they're good for nothing. So that stuff really, really enrages me. And I guess
I used to live in Darwin, and I lived in Darwin as one of my big commercial radio DJ careers, and I'd hear this stuff all the time. I was new to Darwin. I hadn't really met anybody of Aboriginal descent until I'd actually moved to Darwin.
Yeah.
And they made a movie up there. I think I can't remember the name of it, but they made a film, and we launched it in the cinemas there. But yeah, I hadn't heard of it, and so I didn't really understand what it was until people I'd hear, oh my God, this is horrible.
Yeah. I think a lot of Australians actually also haven't had the chance to meet other Indigenous Australians. We're 3% of the population. So there's this, I guess, I feel nowadays there's more of a want to understand and connect. But yeah, my parents' generation, grandparents, it was way worse.
Yeah, I bet.
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah. So, and it's horrible that you've gone through that experience. It's made you who you are, and I would hazard a guess that at least part of that trauma has led you to a greater empathy for what animals experience as well. My brief background is just great grandparents moved from England to Australia, so kind of classic standard middle class story and background. But I was bullied like to no end, to the point of nobody would know about it. You wouldn't even, parents, I hope they don't watch this, but I was considering quite a few times, and it was so relentless that I think I just never dealt with it. And I've been learning more and more about a condition called maladaptive daydreaming. And I'd never heard of it before until I saw a documentary just recently. And it blew my mind. I said, that's me. That's me, because it's all locked up. When I see another person suffer, so if I see a child or someone innocent being bullied, I automatically, I guess I feel it inherently. It is that same feeling, and I might have some flashbacks, or I'll become automatically defensive because I've become a person that, if I was this person now back then, would have cut the bullying like this. And so now I am that advocate. And so when I see an animal suffering, I automatically feel how they feel. I feel like I feel how they feel. And I wonder if I was, really popular in high school, and all through, my career, whether I would be as empathetic, because I wouldn't be able to see from that other side. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. And I totally relate to you when you watch what others go through, like animals. You literally, I feel that same sensation as well, like you feeling that knife in a way, or it's terrible. And what can you elaborate on this daydreaming that you're mentioning? I haven't heard of it.
Yeah, it's something that's actually very challenging for me to talk about because I've only just looked at it. So there's a condition called maladaptive daydreaming. I've literally only just learned about it over the last couple of months, and then suddenly I looked into it. Even used ChatGPT to try and self-diagnose myself, and get there. And I really understood. So what it is you create through trauma, based on trauma, you create really vivid worlds, and you can spend hours and hours daydreaming. And these worlds can become so real, but slightly out of reach. So the average person might daydream like, oh, I wish I had a new car, or, I just imagine going on a holiday. These are like next level. If you've ever seen the movie Never-Ending Story, have you ever seen that movie?
No, I know.
Okay.
It's a very popular story.
Right.
Movie, back in the day.
But it's a second world. So the idea of maladaptive daydreaming is you've created these, completely different realities in your head that feel real, that have real characters, that have, real backstories, storylines, character arcs, adventures, and everything. And they go through your head that people looking at you, they wouldn't know you're daydreaming. They wouldn't know what you're really thinking. But the other side of it is deep privacy. So it's like compulsive privacy, where I just wouldn't let the dumbest little things out. I could tell somebody that that would be sharing with me, and I would just go, oh, that's nice, and wouldn't share a single thing about myself. Yet inside of these worlds, you think Lord of the Rings, but it's real in my head. And you realize where that comes from in maladaptive daydreaming is that people have experienced a lot of trauma created as an alternative to real life. But yeah, it's something that I deal with, and I didn't realize. I thought everybody did what I did. I thought, oh, everybody daydreams, but I realized that there's only a small percentage of people that do what I've created in my head, which I've been doing since probably about the age of 4. You get to the age of 20 and you think you're going to give it up, but it just gets more immersive. It's like putting VR goggles on, and you're there.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah,
that is crazy. Yeah, didn't know that was a possibility.
Yeah, I didn't realize it at all.
Well, I guess from there, how did you even know that was probably not the norm in comparison to other kids growing up?
I just watched a documentary 4 weeks ago.
Okay.
And that was it. And I thought, what is this? And I just started watching it, this thing, and I thought, that's me. And people were describing these worlds that they'd created, but they were bound in depression. They didn't want to go out. They didn't want to, engage with life, or they wanted to but didn't know how. But I did that. I kind of got over that years ago. It just became just part of my coping strategies in life. So whenever I deal with trolls or, on, vegan social media, whenever I'm dealing with a lot of trauma, such as, past breakups or things like that, this is the place I'd go. So I wouldn't experience the same trauma that somebody else dealt with. And I wouldn't share because I just locked it all up and pushed it all down, in a way that probably most people, you can push down you can repress your anger or repress it, but I just do it at a different level. So it's been challenging to talk about, but I'm kind of still getting there, but it still brings me back to the empathy of, being compelled to do animal rights activism.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. I guess from that experience, that bullying, how did you then get the next seed planted to go vegan? I mean, I presume you didn't grow up vegan.
Didn't grow up vegan.
No.
Well, it was interesting where I would have to have an exposure to something to cut something out of my diet. So I remember seeing on the SBS, I saw a cow being killed. At one point, I saw a pig being killed. And each time I saw something, I said, I can't eat that anymore. I can't, and I was affected. I was upset. I've got these kind of really vivid visuals in my head, as if I'm watching it again on the screen, not just like a vague feeling, but I guess maybe in a way, I don't know if everybody else can do it, but I can see it as if it's happening. I can see it as if I'm there, and just be in a different place. And I just get these flashbacks. I can't do it. I got down to a chicken, right? And I remember going to a girlfriend's house at the time for lunch, and they gave me chicken, and they said, "Oh, you don't eat cow, you don't eat beef or pig, do you?" And I I still feel embarrassed about saying it, but I said, "Oh no, because I'm against animal cruelty."
Mm.
Like I'm against animal cruelty. Why are you eating chicken?
Yeah, you can look back on your past self and just kind of laugh and say that, but yeah.
I just got to the point, and then each exposure cut me out until I had no more excuses. And at that point, I went stopped. And then as soon as I stopped, I started getting all the pushback from family, and that just made me more rebellious. And it caused a few reactions in me. I just did what I always did and start pushing the world away. And then I'm online, see Earthling Ed doing outreach, and I see Anonymous for the Voiceless in the background, and I just felt compelled. I've got to go and do that. And off I went, didn't stop, and just followed that path since. It's not just a matter of being vegan, it's a matter of speaking out and pushing back against the bullies.
Yeah, essentially, mate. That's what it is. When you watch what these animals go through, it's bullying to its finest form. Purest form, really. They don't want to be a part of what humans have created for them. Can you tell me, sorry, how long ago was that moment you said, that's it, vegan now, no chicken?
2000 and start of 2017, probably around about that time. Yeah, maybe end of 2016, 2017. Before that, literally the only thing I was eating was chicken. And so when people say I'm almost there, I want to bang my head against the wall, but I have to relate because I did the same thing. And I was off dairy, eggs, everything, but chicken were the ones that were my victims. They were my victims. That's what I had to deal with. And then when I went off it, I thought, why didn't I just do that whole thing years ago?
Yeah, definitely. Did you outwardly declare the vegan word? Because I know when I switched, like I put a status on social media, hey everyone, like I kind of took the mickey out of myself and said, going vegan now, I've gone to the dark side. And everyone, a lot of people laughed. Didn't think I was going to make it. I had a few people say I was going to die because I wasn't going to get enough protein and broccoli, things like that. Is that what you did, or it's kind of like
No, I announced. Doing it. No, I just announced it. I just said, sorry. I didn't use the word vegan. I don't originally remember using the word vegan. I just said I'm not eating that. I was supposed to go to a Christmas party with family, and I remember just kind of acting out a little bit where someone said, well, you can have leftover salads and salads. I said, okay, why does an animal have to be in every freaking food? Like, you don't need egg in this thing. You don't just have – anyway, I just couldn't get it. And I just said, well, I just won't show up. If you can't cater for me, okay, I just won't be there. It's fine. Like, I just won't be there. And so they catered. And I said, well, look, just don't talk about it on the day, what I'm eating. I won't comment on what you're eating. Don't comment on what I'm eating. And then when I showed up, I brought, a bunch of, I'd gone to a vegan grocery store. I bought like some mock meat. So, because I knew they were going to have a barbecue on. I'd bought, gelatin-free candy. And they showed that, my brother, he's all, supportive, a great guy. But he was saying, well, this is the vegan, lollies or candy, and these are the non-vegan. I said, Scott, it's just food. It's just candy, right? It doesn't need to be separated to give it a or I. It's just is. You should, if not for me, you could be able to mix them all together. It wouldn't make a difference. So it's not vegan food. It's just food. And otherwise, I'll be throwing back at them and saying, you can have a vegan banana if you like.
Yeah, I think a lot of
it's just food.
Realize that a lot of these things are vegan by default, and I guess that goes back to the fact that a lot of people, like I, don't really know what vegan means. There's still a common misconception out there. And I guess, how would you define vegan like to someone that you never knew in one or two sentences?
Oh, that's a great one. I'll ask you as well. I'd love to hear your perspective on this. I'll share mine quickly. I look at this as cutting out all forms of animal exploitation from all purchasing habits. for moral reasons. It's not about diet. Diet is fixed simply by being on a good plant-based diet, but being vegan is a separate issue. I just want to secondarily add to this is that I'm really protective now of the term vegan, because if you're going to embrace it, you embrace it. It's not poisonous. It's not a poisonous word. You own it, and you own it as a professional. You own it, as this is who we are. If there's a better word, let's use it. If there's a more powerful word, let's use it. But there's a segment of the vegan community that try and dilute the term vegan for human-centric issues, and they'll say that if you support XXXX, or you don't speak out against XXXX human-centric issues, you're not vegan. Because people can still be racist and be vegan. People can still be non-racist and be vegan. You know what I mean? You can be pro one country or another country and still be vegan. You can be Muslim or a Christian and be vegan. It's a separate entity to every other inconsistency in your moral framework.
I totally agree. Totally agree with the definition and the elaboration.
So what about you? How do you explain it?
Yeah. Nowadays I would simply say to someone, it's changing the mindset of how you view animals, that they're not commodities, resources, slaves or objects for us. And so then the natural progression of that is that the actions you take align with that thought, because it really is just a shift in paradigm in a way, I think. So yeah, it relates to all your purchasing habits, but also what you participate in, what you choose to step in and out of. I won't step in a SeaWorld or at a rodeo, or if I do, I'm at the front, I'm protesting or something like that. But yeah, even to the point of where you go to a hotel and I'll ensure that there's no down in the pillows, or I'll ask for that. Checking the toothpaste. The food is the biggest one, obviously. That's where we exploit the animals the most, but I think it all comes back to the mindset that we don't view animals as resources and ours to use for our own gain.
Do you find when you're explaining this to somebody that they just this is coming from my own perspective, so I want to see if you're kind of experiencing the same thing, that when you're trying to explain it on such a deep level of how horribly traumatic it is and violent it is, that they're like, whoa, hey, don't be so, this is just a chicken here. Well, come on. Like, I mean, don't be that bad. Like, it's like, yes, it's horrible, but come on, don't be that dark. Just talk about, just buy some oat milk and shut up,
Yeah.
How do you get around it? Like, is there a nicer way to term it to people? That's the challenge, right?
I do get those reactions. Like you're saying, it is. They do go, well, that was a bit too deep and full on for me. But how do I get around it?
It's almost like going on a date with somebody and telling them your real, your whole story and all your troubles and all your issues. They're like, well, I don't know about this on your first date.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
Just show me the good side.
Yeah, nowadays I don't have to explain it to a lot of adults, probably because I kind of distance myself from other people. And if it does come up, it's usually at work. And there'll be a discussion back and forth. But yeah, I work with a lot of kids. I'll spend a lot of my time with kids, and I'll put it in a bit more simpler context. And for me, kids it's cool because they don't have that wall up. They don't have that filter up yet. So they can come back and be a bit cheeky or sarcastic, and I'll roll with it. And, it's a lot easier to talk to children about this subject than a lot of adults, to be honest. Yeah, they don't feel threatened.
Yeah, okay. And you work with of children of Aboriginal descent predominantly, right?
Correct.
So they're already hearing, tell me if I'm wrong, but they're already hearing stories of oppression from their elders, of what life potentially was like, and maybe that is an edge in a way to explain to them. Okay, it's systemic, and if you don't want to feel that, you wouldn't want someone else to feel that for you.
Yeah, certainly. That's a good one. They do share their stories of families experiencing X, Y, and Z. They also know what it's like to be treated wrong. But like you said, when I bring up the definition of veganism, they do just go, "Oh, it's a chicken." I think they still, or it's a dugong, or unfortunately still under the assumption, that animals are still here for us. And it's going to take a while to break the mold. I think I'm glad I'm in that space because I can be a role model. Probably the only Indigenous vegan that they'll probably ever meet in their life. So I take any opportunity I can to talk to them about that when it's relevant. Because I don't just bring it up out of nowhere. Because a lot of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people aren't vegan. I do have a Facebook page called Deadly Vegans.
Deadly.
Yeah.
Love
Deadly
it,
Vegans.
yes.
Yeah, a couple hundred
Deadly.
of us in there. It's a bit dormant now, so I'd like to reignite it, but just,
Do they ever say, like, would you?
yes. All those terms.
Isn't that just like bad or something? Would you? Or is that the cool? I was living in Darwin, and they used to use this. Oh, that was deadly. And, but if it was bad, it was would you? So I wouldn't want them to like say that bad veganism.
Deadly is like it means wow or great or
it's great.
But there's different terms for backwards.
Yeah, it's great. You got such a good career, and you're working. You're working with somebody. Somebody I know, their kids went to school with a vegan animal rights activist who was really big on Sea Shepherd, and he would always bring those lessons to the class, even though they do a little bit of trolling. But he was just kind, he was kind, but joke with them, but they respected it.
Yeah, definitely. So, and the kids I work with definitely respect where I'm coming from. Actually, they don't joke about it. I've put the definition out there. When the topic's about animal bodies, they don't offer it to me. They won't disrespect me in that level. Yeah,
that's amazing.
Yeah,
that's great. So then sorry, go on.
No, sorry, you go.
I was going to then ask you how you bring that to the world of adults, because I've come to understand that adults are just grown-up children in many ways, and you're dealing with adults. I think I would never leave my kids with X people, like, the childcare center, or the values that they're pushing would just blow my mind. And I'm thinking, you're grown adults. How are you still thinking this stuff?
Yeah, I agree. Children and grown-ups' body. With adults, at work, I understand that I can't. I've got some parameters to work in, and I can't push the conversation too much. I don't want to outrage anyone because, like I said, people get defensive. I don't want to risk my job or position out of it. So I've got to be patient and take some understanding. In contrast to, when we're doing the march through Brisbane City the other week, and we're just yelling out a direct message, that's a lot different. And you see the anger and the emotion that comes with people. Family, I used to tiptoe around that, but nowadays I've just kind of laid the law down and I've let family know that, this is something I really care about. And if you share the same values that you taught me, you would be vegan as well. And I get pushed back, and unfortunately they're not there yet. I've done what I can, but family for any vegan is a hard one.
Totally get jealous where I see an activist show up with their vegan parents. There's a gentleman down in Melbourne who was running a different group outside of Vegan Action Melbourne, and when I first met him, he introduced me to his mum and dad, and they're not only vegan, but they're vegan animal rights activists.
Nice. That's a good win. It's a rare win, I'd say.
Never mind. Adopt me.
That's right.
And I'm a grown adult, but adopt me.
Yeah. I'll say for partner too. My partner, she's vegan, but she wasn't when I met her. I met her online through Tinder. Put it out there. But
One
I
of the
had,
successful Tinder stories.
yeah, but I had sort of two non-negotiables when I connected with people through Tinder. I said, A, I don't want children, and B, I'm vegan. And if you don't like that, sorry, see you later. And a lot of people appreciate the honesty. Didn't connect. My partner, she said, "Are you one of those judgy vegans?" And I said, "But you judge people who are cruel to dogs." And she just got it straight away. And she's like, "Yes." So within a day or two of us
Oh,
meeting face to face, showed her the documentary Earthlings. She got it within the first 15 minutes.
Jesus. Some
Yeah.
women, they just want to watch The Notebook.
I said,
You
"No
get you
worries."
to
She
watch
takes it.
Earthlings. Oh
She still watches things like that. But
my
yeah,
God. The first date's the Titanic, not
yeah.
Earthlings.
Yeah, my prior partner, it took a while for her to become vegan. She
Mm,
eventually did,
mm,
but I felt a real contradiction in sharing my life with someone that, was participating in this really horrible thing that I had
mm,
come to realize. But yeah, I just knew it wasn't going to work out. So
mm.
thankfully, I'm with a vegan partner now.
Yeah, it's the same with mine. I was yeah, when the first time we met, she wasn't, and I was just now switching, and then that was it, and she went with it, and off we went. So she was already there, and just needed a reason, I guess.
Yeah,
And so,
yeah,
so I value those, and finding good vegan community as well.
certainly.
So I want to then kind of talk about the view of society on vegans in general, and then I want to talk about how we should approach that and how we should look at it, right? Because I've got to take that I think that could work,
Yeah,
and then I also want to kind of follow up with how we keep our power as vegan animal rights activists doing outreach, where we feel drained of all our energy by the end of the day.
yeah. So
All
the
right.
question to me is, how do I think people view vegans?
That's my first question.
Oh, they hate us. They hate
Okay.
us.
All right.
And I get why. If I put myself in their shoes, like
You
it's
were.
just yeah. Well, that's right. I guess I wasn't offended by any vegans, especially when they shared what they were saying about animals. I mean, I found it pretty hard to argue against. But I think the general population as a whole don't really like what we're sharing.
Mm.
And I think that just kind of shows where we are in, in the timeline. I think the fact that we are disliked is just part of the process.
Okay.
And
What makes you feel you're disliked? Do you think somebody dislikes you personally, or just the fact that?
no, not
Um,
not personally. No, I think a lot of people in my life love me, but I think,
of course.
yeah, if I just told a random story, like I have animal rights stickers on the rear boot of my car, and I remember a couple of months ago, I got in the car. A bunch of people right behind me said "F and vegan," like they could see it, and gave me the finger as they drove off. I think that's what gives me the impression, and also seeing the backlash that other activists get online is what leads me to think.
Isn't that fascinating?
What do you think?
That's fascinating that you went through that. Um, so I'm of the mind that, in general, society doesn't want veganism, and they have to accept veganism. Like they have to accept there's a segment of the community that's, LGBT. They have to accept that in all segments of society there will be exceptions to the rule, and otherwise, everybody is the same. Everybody is straight.
Yeah,
Everybody's exploiting animals. Nobody's improving. Nobody is questioning the status quo. Nobody's protesting. Nobody's questioning the government on anything, and everybody's the same. And so society just in general has to accept that we exist as vegans. Okay. But they don't. One thing I recognize is when people try and debate the the task of being veganism. I've been on their side. I grew up on their side. I grew up there, and I wasn't. We were all born vegan. We just then made to consume animal products, and I've been there, so I know. I never hated. I never had an argument with anybody because I was bullied as a kid. I know what it's like to be in pain and feel trauma, and I'm sure that they do too. But they've got a disconnect, and yeah. I don't know. I just, it's horrible that you've experienced that, and you're not the only one. I knew a woman in Melbourne who had got a magnet on the side of her car, and it was, I think it wasn't Animals Australia, it was a different one. Animals Australia is seen as like the RSPCA. It's seen as the acceptable societal expectation of, okay, we'll allow this. Nobody will touch Animals Australia because, hey, they love the cats and dogs. RSPCA, great. Glad you support them because they love cats and dogs.
Yeah.
But hers was something else, and she found her car being scratched up.
Wow.
I had no idea who did it. But it tells me a lot in terms of societal shame and how people will shame you into conforming.
Yeah, certainly.
Or being quiet.
Yeah. That's why I think animal rights activists and vegans, I think it's just honestly, it has to be a part of the process that we're not liked. And because I had seen the same thing with Indigenous rights activism in Australia, people protesting to be included in the referendum or right to vote. All those people back then weren't treated very nicely for bringing, calling for the basic decency. They were punched and bashed and slandered. I see the same parallels with animal rights activism and human rights activism as well. It's just, it needs to happen. Otherwise, you're not rocking the boat. You're not really doing the job.
Right. So if we can go and understand that we are not, well, I don't say me. I know people like me as a person. And if I was to say to them, you eat what you eat, I'll eat what I eat. Don't talk about it. If you want to try my food, great. It's just a different diet. You might be lactose intolerant and you can't have dairy for dietary reasons. I don't for moral reasons. Okay, so I've got different ingredients on my food. Why should you care what I eat? Then they will take the stance of, well, why do you care what I eat? And I said, at the dinner, I'm not going to talk to you about your meal. I'm here with you. I'm eating with you. We're having a meal. But if I don't know you and I'm out on the street and you approach me while I'm doing my activism, we're going to have a whole different conversation.
Yeah.
And that's the divide. And the reason why it's a divide is, and the reason why I care about what you eat is because your choices are bullying others. Your other choices are torturing others. You don't even see them. Someone's doing the torturing for you.
Yeah.
And you're getting away with it. And you're not even being accountable. You're not even thinking about your choices. You're just consuming. You're part of the problem. And that's why I care, because if you had to see the animal dying, you likely wouldn't eat it, whatever that animal is. And I say it because normally I'll say he and she, but I'm just talking about in general term. A human is an it. So, yeah, that's why.
Yeah, exactly right. No, we don't care what you eat. Is who you're eating, and essentially that's what we're trying to bring to light.
Yes. So of course we're gonna get pushback, and people don't like us because we're speaking out.
Yeah, and we're the only, animal rights activists are the only people that are doing this. That they're the only people that animals have on their side. If we're not doing it, my parents aren't doing it. They're not vegan. My colleague isn't going to speak up for that chicken getting blended up alive. We're the only ones. So I feel like this, for me, this is the greatest cause I can fight for till I stop breathing. Like, I don't think there's any other more worthy thing for me to pursue until, I think it's just such an injustice that, and everyone needs to be, there needs to be accountability, essentially.
I want to go into how we hold our energy in just a minute, but it reminds me of empathy is being able to see through somebody else's eyes. And so I work with different types of analogies to get people there, if I can get them there. And, you know, one of the things I'll say to people is, actually, just bear with you 1 second, edit that one. What I'll say to people is, imagine you are an English-speaking person locked in the prison cell of another country where you don't speak the language and you can't understand why you're there. You've just been arrested. You've just been thrown in this prison. Imagine it's North Korea. You don't know why you're there. Nobody's trying you for anything. You're thrown in, maybe you're at a labor camp, you still have no idea, and nobody will communicate with you as to why you're there, and they can't understand you and you can't understand them. All you understand is they're making you do something. And if you don't do something, they will hit you, they will hurt you, and they will exploit your body. And then over time, your body becomes less, you become weaker, you become nothing, a shell of your former self until you die. How do you feel?
That's a great thought experiment and great way to put it. How do these people react to that or respond?
They get it. They get it. They do. They get it. And I said, well, that's what an animal feels every day, but they can't tell you. So I'm here to tell you.
Yeah. Yeah. Of course. Of course. Geez, I wonder how I would have reacted if, you know, an animal rights activist like yourself, Greg, come up and said that to me on the street as I had walked past. If I had no other exposure to veganism, I really do wonder that if I was to get defensive or bury it down,
you would be left with a lesson.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Yeah, I don't have any analogies like that, to be honest. Yeah,
I just build them up over time. But the lesson I do learn with activism, and this is going to lead into where we hold our power and how we should see ourselves as vegans, is I'll say to somebody I've outreached, I'm never going to meet you again. You and I may never meet again. What you do from here is entirely up to you. And so it's that conversation that lingers in their head later. As an analogy to it, I remember reading somewhere they say you don't fall in love on a date. It's always after, because you start thinking about the person. You start when they've hijacked your brain and you can't stop thinking about them. That's love. That's when you start falling in love. Whether it's true unconditional love, different story. But you start getting that infatuation. You start learning that you're loving this person because you miss them. During the date, you're just in the mode. You're going, this is a great night. This is great, fantastic. But you're only falling in love after. And people only change and they start getting guilty and starting feeling all those additional feelings when they've got time to process that conversation and that time you've had with them.
Yeah,
so you don't make the change on the day. It's generally, you know, long after.
Yeah, certainly. So true. So true. Your question was, how do you protect your energy?
Yeah, how do you protect your energy? Well, maybe let's talk about how we should look at ourselves as vegans or animal rights activists.
I think, for starters, every vegan needs to be an animal rights activist in some form or shape. I think vegan is the moral baseline, the bare minimum. You know, leaving animals alone is the least we can do. So the next step naturally should be to speak up for them. So if you're not doing it now, you should do it in any way, shape or possible, whether it's resharing things on social media, putting stickers up, doing drawings, comics, things like podcasts, any way that you feel is sustainable. You don't have to be confrontational with everyone. I just think if we had every vegan ever, we would be on a faster track to a vegan world, speaking up for animals. And how do I protect my energy? I used to give a lot of my time to trolls or people who just, now I can just read, they just don't give a shit about animals. And I think there are scumbags out there that just, they love watching them suffer. And I just don't, it's just, you're draining your energy for no reason. I feel like let's just talk to people that do care, that do have a heart. Let's start with them. That's going to be an easier win. And outside of this sphere, I try to fill my cup by doing other things that I enjoy like other hobbies. Because this can consume you. I feel like if I can definitely get consumed by thinking about all the suffering that goes on with animals, and you can bury a hole. I mean, I've gone to a psychologist about this. And I've also become kind of misanthropic because of it. I don't really like humanity as a whole because of this grave injustice. Not to say I don't like individuals. I think people are good, but just what we're doing on a mass levels is horrendous. So yeah, nowadays I try to sort of segment these different thoughts, and sometimes I have to put the veganism aside to enjoy the day. Yeah.
Okay.
How about yourself?
That makes sense. Well, what about in terms of when you're doing outreach? So you've taken part in outreach before, right?
Yeah.
How do you feel at the end of the day?
How do I feel at the end of the day? Some days accomplished, like I've planted a seed. Some days just shitty. I guess about the apathy, and I guess that's what led me to stop the first time around, because I was a new vegan. I thought, oh my god, everyone's going to care about this, right? Oh, how can you watch this and sleep at night? But no, you watch people walk past and they laugh, and so that really left me feeling drained. So it really depended on the day. Yeah,
it's rare that somebody, you don't realize how rare that is actually, that you automatically would think everybody will care about this. Once you show everybody, everybody's going to change. And then you see people laughing, and you see people just like dismissive and arguing with you. Yeah. And I'm thinking, why are you arguing with me? What do you mean?
Exactly.
What?
Yeah.
Yeah. What? So you, at the end of the day, when you've done outreach, do you go in with the energy level of 10? Or, like you're averaging around 8, so you just show up and you kind of get involved with it and, you're kind of like pretty level-headed? Or do you go in like pumped and ready to go?
It's been a while since I've done street activism, but I guess when, we did the recent march in Brisbane City, this topic, like it enrages me. What happens to animals, and I have to kind of come in to the outreach, like, and try to tell myself to bring it down and remember that we're talking to people that are genuinely ignorant, that they just need that chance to learn.
So when you've done outreach in the past, though, you've done outreach, the TVs, that type of thing. I guess what I wanted to know is, when you went in there, were you pumped up at the start? Did you feel like, or did you go in like pretty level-headed at the start? Or, as I understood before, you said, you showed up and like, if everybody's going to see this footage, everybody will go, of course they will. And then you're finding people laughing. I mean, did you go in like with the high energy and then end here, or what happened? What did you find as a general rule?
As a general rule, it's hard to say, because it really depends on the conversations that you would have for the day. If you get more trolls than not, and I guess prior I went in with the expectation for an outcome. Now I just go in and go, if I've represented the animals as best as possible and I've planted the seed, like you said, I'm probably not going to meet that person again. I can't see the fruition of that conversation or the outcome. Don't be attached to the outcome now, and then your expectations won't be dropped. Yeah.
So I wanted to then maybe just give you my perspective on, one, how we should see ourselves as vegan animal rights activists, and also how to keep our energy. I'm a control freak about my life. And I have been so since, overcoming, bullying and getting control of my career, and just not putting up with any lack of control over my life whatsoever. I can't stand losing control, because as soon as I lose some control over my life, something goes wrong. Someone tries to take something from me that they shouldn't take. Something shows up in my life that I didn't expect, I don't want, and it's because somebody wants something, and it's because I've let a weakness go. I can't stand it. It's compulsive. I don't control other people, but I control how I react and my world. So my house is mine. Everything that I do, It's got to be the way I need it to be. So being vegan, I look at that the same way. And when I first went vegan, I had people, what are you doing this for? And, the stuff that we were talking about earlier. But sorry, you've got to deal with it. And if you don't want to deal with it, you don't have to know me. That's it. And I have come to a point where, to protect myself, I look at it almost, without saying it, I don't know how to put it. It's difficult, but it's more of like a superiority complex, because when people will say, well, you just think you're morally superior to us. I never did think that I was morally superior to somebody, but I'm now at the point, after hearing so much of that and people trying to drain my energy, that I don't want to argue the point of being morally superior, because it minimizes the suffering that animals go through. And I just want to get past that and talk about that. So I'm now at the point of saying, if I need someone to reach up to my level, then I am morally superior. If I have to go down and to a different level to deal with a troll, then I'm going down a level, because trolls hide under bridges. Trolls are there to make your life hell. They're there to say mean things, to be cruel. And as vegans, okay, we don't have to be weak. We don't have to put up with anything. If someone pushes me, I push back physically. If they push me, I push back. I'm not going to just be a calm Zen Buddhist, which is what the assumption is if you're vegan. No, not at all. I have to look at what we do as the morally superior thing. If someone asks, I go, yes, I am. Okay, let's talk about animal rights activism and why you're still torturing animals, or why you're still paying for it. Let's just get past my personal value that you think that I'm morally superior. Yes, I am. Great. Let's move on to the thing that really matters here. So I protect myself by having a moral superiority complex. I also look at it like employee-employer. So, or father figure and child, because adults can be just adult children, grown-up children. So I would look at it and say, if I run a business, like I do, I'm fully self-employed. I have my own company structure. I'm building a business outside of that, but I earn great money each week. Most people wouldn't earn the money that I'm earning each week. So automatically, I know that is because I've got a lot of drive in life. So I then have to think, okay, how would an employer, a boss, treat an absent employee, someone who's cutting corners, who's stealing things from the office, who goes for long lunches, and I need productivity and moving forward to something of profitability and betterment of this company. How am I going to treat that? And for me, I look at that with animal rights activists. How do I get these people to go along with this journey as this powerful movement of this hot startup company called Veganism? And I've got the idea. Veganism is the next Facebook. Veganism is the next X.com and the next YouTube. How do I get people to invest in that? And I can't do that by being weak. People have to think you're smart. People have to think Elon's the genius, even though he might not be a genius. People had to think that, the Apple CEO was the genius, right? Yeah. But he wasn't. He had a whole bunch of engineers creating the iPad. They had you know what I mean? Like, everybody invested in the one guy.
Yeah.
And
certainly.
That's what we have to be. If you want your kids to look up to you as the teacher, you're being your strong morals,
authoritative.
They know that's what we need to be. We need to hold our power.
I agree,
right? And that's how I look at veganism. It is, on one hand, the easiest thing to do is step to the left and buy oat milk. You don't have to keep buying. It's a couple of changes of ingredients. Instead of chicken, putting mushroom in there. Really simple stuff. And using a non-vegan term, even a monkey could do it, right? And if even a monkey can do it, then even everybody else can do it. And that's how I kind of look at it. I have to be a little bit more superior about it. That's how I would look at veganism, as a stronger value. There is nothing weak about it. And in fact, you have to be stronger to be a vegan.
You do.
To have to be even stronger to be an animal rights activist. I've even said to some guy doing outreach, I said, do you think I want to be here every week? Do you know how painful it is to talk to strangers?
Yep.
I bet you couldn't even do door knocking sales. You'd freak out. You couldn't make a single phone call. You couldn't do a single cold call. And yet I'm having to stand here and argue with you that you want to argue with me. You came up to me. My morals are already set. And I'm dealing with a stranger coming up to me on the street. How do you think I am dealing with it?
Yeah, definitely.
I've got to be strong.
Definitely. You have to put your fears aside to, interact with the public and send a strong message. Exactly right. It takes a strong character. I know. I think that's why I resonated with certain activists like, Joey Carpstrong or Gary Yourofsky.
Exactly.
You know, they were just straight to the point, no bullshit. And
superheroes.
Yeah. I think as the vegan community need to kind of emulate that. I see a lot of it more. I see it with Anonymous for the Voiceless, the strategies they're employing now. They're kind of cutting to the chase with a lot of conversations. So yeah, I agree with you.
The other area I was going to explain also is how to keep your energy during activism. And it's so funny that I learned this by accident. Well, between careers, I was doing sales, and a lot of it was open-ended questions. And what I actually learned was if you flip the script on people when they come up, instead of asking them, explaining why you're vegan, you actually just ask them, if you were to be vegan, why would you do it?
Yeah.
And you keep all your energy, because people always want to argue the opposite, right? So they'll come up and argue with you. They'll come up and debate with you. And then you try and fight. Yeah, but what about the animals? Or what about all the whataboutisms? What about this footage you see on the screen? Here's my view on it. This is why I did it.
Yeah.
And then they'll say, yeah, but what about protein? You explain your moral ground, and then they'll ask an inane question. So to hold your power, you will say to them after they see the footage, all right, look, or even if they just see a poster, you just say, look, I'm not saying you're going to be vegan, but if you were, why would you do it? Why would you be vegan? And all of the reasons they come up and argue with you about not being vegan, they actually say as the reasons for being vegan. The sheer amount of people have said, oh, because it's healthy, it blows my mind, because they're the same people that would tell you, where do you get your protein? So, I'll do it being healthy, and that's because it's against animal cruelty. But then I ask, once they've kind of explained it, what else? Yeah. I'll say, okay, so what you're saying is health is really important to you, and you're saying with the right diet, you can, with balanced diet, you can be vegan. Can we clarify that? Oh, yes. Okay, box that up. Done. Let's go on to your next point. You're against animal cruelty. Okay, are you against animal cruelty to dogs and cats, or is it just overall? And we'll lock all of that away, and then I'll dig deeper. What do you mean by that? So it's all about asking them and extracting. And by the end of it, it should be you own them. You're okay. Well, now you're up at my level, and then I'll say, okay, well, you're either. And if I've got good comfort with them, and I've got a good rapport, I'll say, well, you're either lying to me or you're being really wishy-washy about your morals here. I thought you're a strong-willed human being, but now all of the things you're saying are really important. You're just not doing. Yeah. So are you lying to me, or are your morals weak? There's no option C, and then they'll option B. They'll say, well, yeah, maybe my actions are not relating to my morals. And I said, I'm not going to see you again. We may never meet. And that's something you have to live with. But one of the biggest things about going vegan is that internal conflict that you've got of having wishy-washy morals. It all goes away.
Yeah, it really does. It's a way. Yeah, when I switched, it was a weight off my chest. I felt genuine guilt. I felt like there's no one else responsible for this when I'm watching this footage but me. That's
a way to keep your power, right? So you just hold it. By the end of the conversation, you've put it on them, and you walk away holding your own power.
Yeah. And I think, when people say I don't make people feel guilty, I think it's needed. It's genuinely needed. Like if someone feels guilty, it's actually you're on the right track. Nothing else is going to compel you. Yeah.
Someone said to me that, don't make me feel guilty. So I'm not making you feel guilty. You have a guilty conscience. That's not up to me. I've only just met you. I don't know what you feel guilty about.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you feel guilty about it, then you know you're doing the wrong thing. Don't cry to me about it. I'm just pointing this out, and I'll never meet you again, and you've got to live with it. So where do you want to take it? Like, what is something important to you that you really want to get across about what we're doing, what's happening, and where you see what you want to do with activism in the wider world?
Good question. I just want to reiterate to anyone who's listening to get active in some way or form, and to join us at Vegan Action Brisbane. We're going to get some more things rolling, especially on the street, in any way possible. And the second thing is a question for you, Greg. Do you think we'll ever see a vegan world?
One day, just not this lifetime.
Yeah. I think this is something that's going to go past our generation, and so on. It's going to take hundreds and hundreds of years. I think it's just about planting that tree that everyone will sit under eventually, for future generations to realize and look back, oh my God, how did we do this? Why did we do this? It's so wrong. But I don't think it's in the 2000s that we're going to come to this realization.
There just needs to be more vegans each generation to eventually cancel out, and everybody else who's still eating meat in the future is seen as vegans are today.
Yeah, certainly. The other question I have here is, do you believe in climate change, and do you think that will impact this progress? Do you think humans will stick around long enough to see vegan world? So
one of my favorite comedians had said, and I'm only paraphrasing here, but he says, the Earth has been hit by asteroids, by comets. It's had global sized volcanic eruptions, tidal waves that have wiped out species upon species across the entire planet. The Earth will be fine.
Yeah, I agree.
We won't. We're going away. So whatever replaces us, whether we're taken over by aliens one day, we're wiped out by a sun glare, some flare from the sun, what bakes us half to death, we all get cancer and all die. Where one day we may go away, but the Earth itself will be fine, and the Earth itself will heal, and the Earth itself will create new species along the way. We recognize that nature is not kind, because when you see an animal dying of a disease and it breaks your heart and there's nothing you can do, or you see the way the insect world treats itself, or the old classic non-vegan line of a lion eating a gazelle. We know nature is not kind, but we have the capacity to be kind. We have the capacity to just leave other animals alone. We have the capacity to make better choices for ourselves, so that whatever happens to us next, and even by the end of our lives, we can look back with no regrets, knowing that we did our best. So I don't know about climate change. I just know the Earth will always be fine. If Earthlings go away, that's probably going to be the best thing for animals on the planet.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you there, certainly.
So we'll wrap it up. Just we're going to quickly talk about a quick point on activism. I think this is one of the things that we also want to start getting across, is the types of activism that people shy away from, and the types of activism people can easily get involved with that don't require much effort. One of the things that doesn't require much effort is joining the Animal Justice Party, and for many, many reasons. One that hit home with me recently was my little beautiful dog, Ebony, passed away quickly of leukemia. But in the space of 4 days, that process cost me $4,500. And by the Monday of the next week, it had cost me another $1,000 on top of that. And the Animal Justice Party advocate for what they call petty care. It's trying to get if they can get into government, they can put in a process to help lower income people pay for their pets. That is going to have a huge effect on people adopting animals of all different shapes and sizes. But if we're talking about activism, joining the Animal Justice Party, joining some vegan activist groups and just commenting and being supportive, showing up on the odd occasion when there's a protest through Brisbane streets, for example, or Sydney streets, just showing up and holding a poster and walking alongside some friends. It doesn't need to be much, but collectively we can do something. And it just needs to be in your comfort level to the point where you're willing to step outside your comfort level.
Yeah, definitely. It can be... Yeah, that's right. I think that's honestly the barrier for people is getting a little uncomfortable.
And that's okay. We're all in together.
Yeah, is that fear of judgment. And like I said earlier, there's other forms that aren't confrontational where, it's simple as slapping a sticker on the sign. If that's what maybe you want to spend your Sunday evening just riding your bike and slapping some stickers on the street signs when there's no one around, do that. If you can't be there to hold the sign face to face with people at the restaurant.
And just know you're not in it alone. You show up with friends. You don't always have to talk about veganism. You can still have a life. You can still enjoy everything else you do. Just show up sometimes.
Yeah, definitely. I agree. We have yet to find somewhere we disagree about.
It's true. But I think, sharing a bit of vulnerability about our backgrounds is something that I would never normally do. But, for the purposes of greater purpose, I'm willing to, and I'm happy to. And, you've done the same, and I'm appreciative of that because, you've got lived experience that I haven't got. And likely, in a way, I've got some that you haven't got, and we've just found the same path.
Yeah, that's so true. Two different walks of life, but we're now going in the same direction.
And I actually think it's from trauma. Like a lot of vegan activists I know come from a bit of a background of trauma.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, if you yourself know what it's like to be treated wrong, or you've seen other people or animals be treated wrong, surely you must know what it looks like in other forms with other species. Yeah. If you have had the rosiest life and never gone through any hardship, I think it would be a bit harder to reach to go.
I think that's the point we hope to get towards would be the next step, is that those who haven't experienced a lot of lived experience of trauma, that in the traditional sense, maybe everybody has challenges in life, but if we can get to the point where those who have had minimal, they just adopt veganism because they know it's the right thing, then we're really making a good impact.
Certainly. Yeah, that is so true. So true. Yeah, when that tipping point is, I don't know.
That's all right. Thank you so much for your time today. And I think that, if you're interested down the track, we'll do this again. And this will be up on the Vegan Action Global YouTube page. It'll be on the Explore Life podcast, and everybody can access it. And we'll post that on social media, and people can ask us questions. And down the track, we'll meet up again.
Easy. Thanks, Greg. I appreciate it. Yeah, awesome. I'd love to have another round in due course.